We left off on Ayin Dalar Amid Beis, just on the bottom here. Tanu Rabbanon. Left off with this. During the Brisa, Ben Tesha Shanav Yom Echad. A child who's 9 years old. So the Gemara tells us in many locations in Shas that until a child's 9 years old, if he cohabits, he does a sexual act with a woman, it's not considered an act of cohabitation. But if he's 9 years old, full 9 years old, if he cohabits, it's considered an act of cohabitation. So let's say she's a married woman, an adult, and she's forewarned, it's considered an act of adultery. So let's say this 9-year-old child, he's a ger Ammoni Moavi. He's a convert. He's an Ammoni Moavi, Mitzri, he's an Egyptian, Adomi, an Edomite, Kusi, V'nosin V'cholol U'mamzer. All these various classifications of illegitimacy. Every one of these. Shebo la Kohenis. They had relations, sex relations with a woman who's a Bas Kohen. A Bas Kohen, she's permitted to eat Truma. Right? She's permitted to eat Truma until she marries somebody who's not a Kohen, or she has a child from a person who's not a Kohen. She's permitted. What happens if she's defiled? The moment she becomes defiled, she's not permitted to eat Truma any longer. Alavio, Valabas Yisrael Paslua. Whether she's a Kohenes, a Levio, or Bas Yisrael, each one of these women become defiled. Paslua, they've been defiled, and not permitted to a Kohen any longer. Okay? Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi argues. Kol shezaro posul posel. If his progeny is considered illegitimate, then he defiles the woman. His act of cohabitation defiles the woman. V'chol she'ein zaro posul. But if his progeny are not illegitimate, ein posel. His act of cohabitation does not defile the woman. And she's permitted to a Kohen. The Gemara say, what is that case? What would you say, Moshe? No, kosher ein zaro posul. He's posul, but ein zaro posul. A mitzri sheni. So that's what the Gemara is going to say. The Torah says that the first 2 generations of an Egyptian is considered illegitimate. The 3rd generation is considered legitimate. So let's say a mitzri sheni. The mitzri was a 2nd generation Egyptian after conversion. His parents converted, now he's the 2nd generation. He cohabits with a woman. Is she permitted to a Kohen? So according to Rabbi Yossi, she's permitted. Why? Because his child, the child of this mitzri, what would be? It would be mitzri shlishi, be a 3rd generation mitzri, which is a kosher Jew. So kol shezaro ein zaro posul, his progeny is not illegitimate. Eino posel, he doesn't defile the woman. According to Tanakam, doesn't make a difference. Tanakama says if he himself is an illegitimate Jew, he defiles the woman. So that's going to be a halachic difference between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi. What? But whoever he is, no. We always. No, it doesn't make a difference. It's an Isdoraisa. But he does not defile her. I mean, that he lived with an ordinary Jew, he did the wrong thing. The question is she defiled? That's the question. He does not defile her. No, it would be a shlishi. It would be a shlishi. It would be a shlishi. No. We'll see the Gemara. No, it has nothing to do with this. Okay? Kol shein zaro poso in a poso. Reb Shimon Gamliel omer. Reb Shimon Gamliel is even more lenient than Reb Yossi. Kol she'atonose bito, atonose almonoso. If you're permitted to marry his daughter, you're permitted to marry his widow. Meaning, if his daughter would be permitted to you, then he does not defile the woman. Kol she'atonose bito. But if you're not permitted to marry his daughter, yatonose almonoso, then you're not permitted to marry his widow. Okay? Meaning, then he does not defile. So he's more lenient than Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that if all his progeny is permitted, son and daughter, male and female, that's when he does not defile the woman. But let's say But Rabbi Gamliel says no. Even if his son is considered illegitimate, if you're permitted to marry his daughter, that's sufficient. That his act of cohabitation will not defile the woman. And therefore you're permitted to marry his widow. So Gemara says, Ma'ika bein Tanakama bein Rabbi Yossi. What would the halachic difference be between Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yochanan, Mitzvisheni Kamenayu. Mitzvisheni. Let's say the man who had relations with the ordinary Jewish woman, the Kohenes, the Leviah, and the ordinary Jewish woman, he was a Mitzvisheni. That would be the halachic difference. According to Tanakama, he says that if he's not permitted, he defiles her. So he's not permitted. Rabbi Yossi says no. It's only if the progeny are illegitimate. The progeny of a Mitzvisheni, progeny are legitimate Jews. Therefore, his act of cohabitation would not defile any of these women. No. Let's say he'd be married to an Egyptian woman. What is the child? It's a third generation Egyptian. Torah says a third generation Egyptian, third generation of converts is considered a kosher Jew, a legitimate Jew. Well, the Gemara is going to ask why. The Gemara is going to ask why in a moment. It's based there's an argument. What's the basis for the source of this? He's a kosher Jew. Kosher Jew. No, ger. No. Ger. You see, every one of these converts has an illegitimate quality. Ammoni, Moavi, Mitzri, Adomi, Nosin, Cholo, Mamzer. They're all illegitimate. Some degree of illegitimacy they have. So an illegitimate Jew defiles a woman. No, his parents converted. His parents converted. What does the second generation mean? His parents converted. No, they could convert. Sure, they could convert. No. That's not what Torah is saying. The third generation is considered legitimate. The first two generations of converts are considered illegitimate. The third generation is permitted to marry any Jew. The first two are Jewish, they're converts. But they have an illegitimacy because they're first and second or other illegitimate Jews. And he's a second generation convert. So if he would have, what is his child? His child is a third generation convert, Mitzri, Egyptian, right? Because he's a second. So his daughter, all his children are legitimate Jews. This man, any progeny he has, will be legitimate Jews. She's not defiled. It's a Torah violation. That he cohabited with her, that she cohabited with a man who's not legitimate. That's Torah. But the consequence of that act does not defile her. Although there was a transgression, there was a negative committed here, the woman is not defiled. Why? 100% kosher. Kosher children. They get malchus. I mean, they both get malchus. Okay? Okay. I don't want to get distracted. It's not relevant to this. We didn't get there yet. You could have a Moab. Why not? No, a Moabite converts. He's illegitimate forever. What happens if he has a daughter? And he has a daughter. Is that daughter a kosher Jewess or is she illegitimate? Well, that we didn't get there yet. That's Reb Shimon Gamliel. He's the most lenient opinion of the three. He says if his daughter is permitted to marry a Kohen, is a legitimate Jew, then he does not defile the woman. Is his daughter sufficient? According to Rabbi Yossi, all his progeny has to be legitimate, male and female. So therefore it has to be Mitzi Sheni. Shim Gamliel says no. Kol she'ata nosi bito. If you permit it to marry his daughter, the woman is not defiled. So what is that case? That's Amoni Moavi, right? Amoni and Moavi, you're permitted to marry their daughter. Because only the male line is illegitimate, the female line is considered legitimate. So therefore the woman would not be defiled. Let's see. No, it makes no difference. Makes no difference what kind of child. Even if she has a boy, even that, let's say a male is born. Let's say there's no child born. No child is born. No child is born. The act of cohabitation, is it an act of defilement? So it depends. If this person, regardless of what child they would have, the children would be legitimate. They would be legitimate Jews. The woman's not defiled. That's Rabbi Yossi. She's forbid. She's not permitted to have relations with this man. She's still a mitzvah shenis. No, of course not. We're talking about the woman is a regular woman. Ushnem lo namdu ela mikohen gadol. Now we're talking about the source. Yes, where did they learn this from? It's all derived from Kohen Gadol. Balmona, a Kohen Gadol marries an almona, widow. He's not permitted. Almona. The Tanakama Sova, Ki Kohen Gadol, Balmona. Tanakama says it's exactly the equivalent. The model case is a Kohen Gadol with an almona. Ma Kohen Gadol Balmona should be also ba'avero uposel bo. A Kohen Gadol has relations with almona who's not permitted to. He defiles her. He disqualifies her. Avkol should be also ba'avero posel. That's the Tanakama. So it's irrelevant what kind of children. Even if the children are going to be permitted, like the Mitzri Sheni. According to the Tanakama, the woman's defiled. It's not based on the progeny. We'll see in a moment exactly what the case. Well, we'll see. It's not so simple. That's the Tanakama's understanding, that the Kohen Gadol marries an almana, he defiles it, who are the almana's children? The chalolim. The chalolim. Right? We'll see. Rabbi Yossi Sova Ki Kohen Gadol Balmona Ma Kohen Gadol Balmona Shezaro Posul Uposel. His progeny are not considered legitimate Kohanim, right? Uposel. That's why he defiles her. The reason why she's defiled is because the progeny are chalolim, are defiled children, in terms of within the context of kuna. Avkol Shezaro Posul Posel. So therefore, who defiles the woman? His progeny have to be illegitimate. So where do we find a case where he's not permitted, but yet his progeny is permitted? Lafuki Mitzisheni, right? Mitzisheni is not permitted. Shein Zaro Posul. But his progeny are not Posul. They're legitimate Jews. Shenet Domakro. The Pasuk says, Bonim Ashivodu Lehem Dor Shlishi Yovu Lehem Bekal Hashem. Right, the children of the third generation are permitted in Kal Hashem. So therefore, it doesn't match the profile of the Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol, his children, when he marries the almana, the chalolim, right, they're defiled. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omen, no. Kol she'atonosi bito atonosi almanoso. If you're permitted to marry the man's daughter, you're permitted to marry his widow, which means she's not defiled, the woman. Kol she'atonosi is bito. But if you're not permitted to marry his daughter, you're not permitted to marry his widow. What is the halachic difference? What is the case to differentiate between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? You have a convert who's a Moni or Moavi, first generation ger. He converted himself. Now he has relations with a Jewish woman. Right? That woman, is she considered defiled or not? According to Rabbi Yossi, she is defiled. Because what all his progeny have to be, according to Rabbi Yossi, have to be legitimate, similar to the Mitzri Sheni. The Ger Amoni V'Avi, it's only the female line, not the male line. Ushneim lo lamdu elim kohen gadol balmona. The Rabbi Yossi Sovaki kohen gadol balmona. Ma kohen gadol balmona shezaro posul uposel. If his progeny is illegitimate, that's when he defiles. Av kol shezaro posul. So if he has illegitimate progeny, posel. So if you have illegitimate, right? The male line is not considered legitimate. So therefore, he defiles the woman. Reb Shimon Gamliel, Kohen Gadol, Balmona, Ma Kohen Gadol, Balmona, Shekol Zaro Posul. It's both the male and the female. All his progeny are considered defiled. The Chalolim of Kolche Zaro Posul. All Afil Nekevos, even the females. La Fugigera Ammonium Ovi, which comes to exclude the converter who's the Ammonium Ovi, the Nekevos, having Sheros Lavavkol. The female is permitted, is considered a legitimate Jew. Domamar, Ammoni v'lo Ammonis, that's Haloch Lo Sinai. Ammoni v'lo Ammonis, Moavi lo Moavis. Only the Ammoni and Moavi to exclude the female. How do we know this? Haloch Lo Sinai. It's more in Yivomis. She's a Chalol. What does that do with anything? But there's the defilement. She's defiled. She's defiled as what? As a Kohen. As a Bas Kohen. She cannot marry a Kohen. Because she's a Chalola. He's not permitted to marry such a woman. The Torah doesn't sanction it. He has relations with the woman. Is born. What is that? So the question is, what is her status? Does she assume a defiled status, and therefore she's not permitted to marry a Kohen? If she's a Bas Kohen, she was eating Truma. If she's defiled, she's not permitted to continue eating Truma. No, she's a Bas Kohen. A daughter of a Kohen. No, she didn't marry the man. She has relations with a Ammonium Movi. He raped her. He raped her. He raped her. Even a raped woman, a woman's raped, she's defiled. Okay, she's raped. Depends who rapes her. Ammonium Movi, according to Reb Shimon Gamliel, she's not defiled. She can continue eating Truma. According to Reb Yossi, she cannot eat Truma. Okay, that's what they're arguing here. I mean, and Tanakam also draws from Ammon, going good. They all, that is the model. The question is, how much do I draw from that case? Does that be identical? Or to what degree does it have to be identical? Or it has to have a semblance of what that is? Tosas himself asks a question. He cites it in Yevomis, or says, how do we know that a woman who has relations with a man that's not permitted that she's defiled? The Torah says, Ki Seitzei lizor. She is Seitzei lizor. She has relations with a man who's considered who's alien to her. And here the Gemara says, we're drawing it from Kohen Gadol. Says it seemingly the Gemara in Yevomis cites another source. So Tosas says, no, this Kohen Gadol only goes to elucidate what exactly is that Izor. Who is the Izor that defiles the woman? That defiles her. So Kohen Gadol goes, Amalek Kohen Gadol goes and elucidates exactly what the Izor is. Okay? Omrat Chizdo. Hakol Modim Balmonis Iso Shepsula Kohen. He says, even though Reb Shimon Gamliel is the most lenient of all the opinions, everyone concurs that if you have Almonis Iso Shepsula Kohen. Now, what's this Almonis Iso? We always discussed before. We say that all arotzos, all locations in the world, are considered Isa compared to Eretz Yisrael. When Ezra had brought, why? Bovel was considered Solas Nikia. It was fine flour. He did not leave any illegitimacy behind, Ezra. And Eretz Yisrael is what? All arotzos are Isa to Eretz Yisrael. So Rashi said, what's Isa? A dough is made up of multiple ingredients. So therefore, it's a society intermingled with many types of classifications of people. Whatever it is. Okay, now, there's a Gemara in Ksubis speaks about what's Almonis Iso. So Rashi cites two interpretations. Rashi over here only says, explains one. Rashi over here explains what is Almonis Iso, the widow of an Iso. Let's say you have a person who's a Sofik Cholo. right? His mother, the Gemara says in Ksubis, what in Gittin, also in Ksubis, a husband throws a get to a woman, and it's not in a courtyard. It's what we call a sinta, tzidushes arabim. It's off the beaten track. It's not a public domain, the location of the main thoroughfare. So the halacha is, if you come upon a lost article, something hefker in a tzidushes arabim, in a sinta, and it's within your 4 cubits, you acquire it. That's called kinyan dal ramos. If it's within your 4 cubits, we see that location as your domain, and something that comes within your domain, you acquire. Okay? That's the halacha. It's called kinyan dal ramos. What? I said tzidi rishus harabim. Tzidi rishus harabim would be it's not private property. It's public property, but it's not a public thoroughfare. Okay? It's off the beaten track. Rabbinically, you acquire. If it's within your 4 cubits, that's called kinyan dal ramos. You acquire it. Okay? What happens if a person wants to divorce his wife? The Torah says, "V'nosam biyodo." He puts the get in her hand. What about if he puts it in her courtyard? He puts it into her house. She's divorced. Her courtyard, her domain is the equivalent of her hand. She's divorced. So the Gemara discusses the case. What happens if a woman is in tzidushes harabim, and the person throws the get within her dal ramos? She's divorced. Because the dal ramos is considered the equivalent of her courtyard. That's her domain. The husband put the get within her domain. Her domain is the equivalent of putting it in her hand. She's divorced. Now you have a case. A man goes, throws the get, and 2 witnesses say it was within her 4 cubits. Another 2 witnesses say it was outside of dal ramos. So we have a suffix grusha. She's a suffix grusha. Was she divorced? Was she not divorced? Subsequently, before the husband goes and gives another get, he dies. The husband dies. Now, after he dies, she goes and she has relations gets married to a Kohen. She herself initially was the wife of an ordinary Jew, but she's a suffix grusha. Okay? And then they have a child. So, and when was the child born? They have a child. He's a suffix cholov. Right? He's a suffix cholov. Because if the mother was divorced, he's definitely a cholov. If the get was not a valid get, so that means his mother was a widow. A widow is permitted to a Kohen. So he's a suffix cholov. He's a questionable state whether he's a valid Kohen or not. Now he goes and marries an ordinary Jewish woman. If a cholov marries an ordinary Jewish woman, and then she's widowed from him, a definite cholov, that woman is not permitted to marry a Kohen. Eishes cholol is not permitted. The wife of cholol is not permitted to a Kohen. Over here, this is called Eishes suffix cholol. It's the wife of a suffix cholol. What's exactly her status? That's Almona Sisa. That's one interpretation of Rashi. Her status is questionable. Now the question is why? What is the question? The father, her husband, when he was born, we don't know exactly who fathered the child. Excuse me, we don't know whether the mother was divorced or not divorced. So it's being a product of that, the child has no chazaka. There's no presumed status. Our question is he the son of a divorcee, or is he the son of a widow? So that can't be determined. Now he has relations with her. Before she married him, or before she had relations with him, what was she? She had a cheskes kashrus. She was permitted to a Kohen. So if she was permitted to a Kohen, now the question arises, was she defiled? If he was a chol, she was defiled. So that's an irresolvable question, correct? Chazaka should say she's still kosher. She's a kosher woman. If the mother was a widow, then she was not defiled, right? If she was divorced, then she was defiled. So it's an irresolvable question. She has a chazaka, and she has a chazaka. Well, evidently, according to this, the chazaka becomes weakened. Chazaka cannot rule here. Whatever you want to call it. But we're saying she assumes the same status as himself. As he's a suffix, she becomes a suffix. That's Almona Sisa. She's the widow of an Isa. She's an ordinary Jewish woman, which was permitted him, Now she's widowed. Is she permitted to marry a Kohen? So the question is, just as was a suffix, although she's a suffix mechulelis, she's not permitted. That's what we're saying. But where she has a chazaka, so when we go after her chazaka, she has a presumed status. Right? Evidently, we don't want a friendship between him and her. Because if we say, if she is not defiled, that means somehow it's like passing judgment on him. That means he wasn't defiled. How do you separate the two? Right? Permitted. And then she's widowed. No, we don't rule it. No. Oh, yeah, correct. The daughter can marry a Kohen. It's based on psukim. Doesn't make a difference. What about a cholo marries a chalola? An ordinary Jew marries a chalola, and they have a child. She's a chalola. Her daughter's a chalola. It carries over to the next generation. Permitted marriage doesn't make a difference. Correct. So the way it could be purged is if there's a male, and the male marries an ordinary woman, because the cholol of a non-Kohen is not considered, doesn't carry any, is not considered a blemish. So his child will be a kosher Jew, his daughter. A cholol marries an ordinary Jewish woman, their daughter is permitted to a Kohen. But if he's a cholol, she's a chololo, or he's a cholol marries an ordinary Jewish woman, that, no. We're not saying that. We're saying a cholol. He himself is a cholol, sofik cholol, and he marries a woman. His wife is not permitted to a Kohen. No, he's a cholol. His wife's considered defiled. Based on psukim. That's based on psukim. Yeah, based on psukim. Right? Lygia doesn't make a difference. And here we're saying this is sofik cholol. She was saying, but here, the question is, wanted to go after chazaka. Andrew, you wanted to say something? It's a trey. Two witnesses says it was within her 4 cubits. 2 said not. So you don't go after chazaka in that case. It is? No, then the man died. So, see, she's a widow. No spec. It's not a real. The first interpretation, it doesn't mean spec. The way it's one suffix, except we're calling the spec because her suffix is a result of his suffix. That's what Rashi's learning. He's questioning whether he's a cholol. And despite the fact he's in question, he transfers his questionable status to her. Despite the fact she had a chazaka. Despite the fact she has a chazaka, it's transferred. It's like a derivative of a suffix. Rashi's learning spec means she is a derivative of a suffix. Same suffix. But that's the way Rashi's learning. A derivative here means a spec. But it doesn't. Right. We'll see. That's why we're going to read. Rashi has another interpretation. He cites somebody else in Chsubis. Learned this as a bona fide spec. Bona fide spec. But the first shot is it's one suffix, but he's calling spec because it's a derivative of the original suffix. But it's the same suffix. So let's get back to the question. She has a chazaka. Right? He has no chazaka, but she has a chazaka. So we should be able to resolve her situation based on chazaka. Right? Before she engaged with him, she was permitted to a Kohen. Our question is, was she what? Every chazaka is always. Right? Whenever you doubt and it's irresolvable, you say status quo. Minimally say status quo. So what is it? This is the Isa. Almonis Isa. She is the widow of an Isa. Isa means his. Okay, so we say his questionable status carries over to her. So the question is, why should it carry over to her? She has a chazaka. Right? He had no chazaka. Why should he have the chazaka? So we discussed the case where you have two roads. One road has a grave, the other road has no grave. Two people walk the road. Reuven walks road A, Shimon walks road B, and we're not sure which one actually passed over the corpse. So it says, if each one comes independently, ask the question of Beis Din, what is the status? Each one's, it's Torah. But if they come simultaneously, then we say they're both tummy. Why? So Tosas answers, factually, even when they come simultaneously, they both should be Torah. Why? Because each one has a chazaka. But if you say that neither are contaminated, so then it becomes almost like it's absurd. Because what are people going to say? How could, because since the question is seen simultaneously, so people say, how could they both be Torah? One definitely crossed over the grave. If each one comes independently, they say, look, maybe this man did it. The other one comes independently. We don't see the two questions, one related to the other. Each is an independent question. But if they come simultaneously, they both walk both roads. And how could they both be Torah? The corpse was definitely on one of the roads. There was a grave on one of the roads. Evidently, therefore, we have to contaminate. Since there's no way to choose which one over the other, we contaminate both of them. Wait, we'll clear. Okay? So it's rabbinical. So Tosas says it's rabbinical. Over here in our situation, it's interesting. There's a case in Bava Basra. Remember, I told over a story. A person comes with a document, a loan document, which is substantiated. It's called Mukuyim, Shtar Mukuyim. And he says to the person, as the lender, you haven't paid your debt. So the borrower says, the so-called borrower says, he says, it's a forgery. I owe you no money. Mezuyif. He says, how could it be Mezuyif? It's substantiated. It's been substantiated in court that it's a legitimate document. He says it's Mezuyif. Okay? So the lender, the so-called lender, bends over to Rav Nachman, whispers in his ear, and says, factually it is, it's a forgery. But I had a legitimate document, it went lost, and I knew that unless I have a document to prove my case, the man's not paying. Therefore, I went and forged a document, a very accurate forgery that you can't discern, we had it substantiated, and that's what it's all about. So the question is, it's amigo, he has amigo. The so-called lender has amigo. Look, he says, if I would have want to be dishonest, I didn't have to say a word. I could have collected this document. Now I'm admitting the document is not a legitimate document. Believe me that I had a legitimate document. If I would have wanted to be dishonest, I could have remained silent, and I would have collected this document. Right? What if the man is dishonest, correct? Now, if he wants to be dishonest, what is he creating a problem for himself? He's casting dispersion on himself. If you made a forgery and it cannot be detected in any circumstance unless I divulge it. If you're dishonest, are you going to divulge it? You're definitely not going to divulge it. He ruled you're obligated. He whispers in. He said, by the way, the man is saying is right. I had one. I had a legitimate document, went lost. I had to have it disgorged because otherwise the man wouldn't pay the debt. That's what he's sharing with Rav Nachman. What do you have to divulge that? It's clear the man is honest. Because if he'd be dishonest, he'd remain silent. Right? That's the famous Tosas, like Tosas Bava Metzia, Migdi Boy Shosik. Although we normally say Migo Lotzi Lo, you cannot extract money with a Migo, but a Migo where you remain silent, that you could have remained silent, that kind of Migo you could extract money. Okay? That's Migdi Boy Shosik. I could have remained silent. So, but it's an argument over there whether it's a Migo Lahotzi or not. Migo Lahotzi, factually, you're admitting it's not a valid document. Do we say Migo or not? The Gemara leaves it irresolved. The Gemara does not resolve the question. So the question is, how do we rule? So Tosa says something interesting. Since Machlokas, in the Gemara, it's left irresolved. So Tosa says something interesting. You have two kinds of questions. You have a suffix in halacha, and you have a suffix in mitzius. Let's say you have our situation there. The woman, she had a kosher status. She was legitimate status. before she engaged with this man. Before she engaged with him, she was permitted to a Kohen. We have a question. Was she defiled? Was she not defiled? What is that question? It's not a question of halacha. It's a question of reality. The man who engaged with her, was he a cholo or was he not a cholo? So that's called a suffix in Mitzias. In the reality, we don't know what happened. The Gemara in Bava Basra, that's not a suffix in Mitzias. It's a suffix, how do we rule? Do we say that's called a migala hotzi? Or is that not a migala hotzi? One says that's called migala hotzi. It's not sufficient to extract money. The other one says it is sufficient. The Gemara leaves it irresolved. So what's my suffix over there? So the question is, could you extract money on that? Of course, you have a chazaka. Does chazaka say, I don't know the money? What is that? That's a suffix in halacha. That's not a suffix in mitzius. That's called a sveika dedina. It's a suffix in din. A chazaka could resolve a situation. Chazaka says he was legitimate. So if he's legitimate, you're not defiled. But because Chazaka tell me who halacha, where we rule like Rav Nachman or Rav Yosef, or with some machlokes Rav Nachman or Rav Yosef, could the halacha tell me you rule like one, not the other? Chazaka is only to tell me what the reality, what happened. It's not to tell me in what the din is. As a result of that, Tosaf's position is, even if you have a Chazaka, if it's a Sveika Dedina, we don't follow Chazaka. You don't follow Chazaka. But if it's a question, in our question, what we're dealing with a suffix in the reality. The man who she engaged with, was he a cholo or was he not a cholo? It's not to rule on a din. Who do we rule like A or B? So we're back to the question. She has a cheskes tyro, cheskes kashrus. She should be permitted, so why is she defiled? To be continued.